You're ready to write the paper, and you have questions. Some of those questions I'm going to be able to answer in this video. Some of them may still linger, and if that's the case, then go ahead and inbox me. We are at the point now where everything that you need, you have in the modules. You may not necessarily know how to navigate your way through what you need, but everything is there. What I'm going to do with this video is try to take you through the before the beginning to the after end of writing the argumentative essay, which is the essay that you all are all embarking upon right now. This video is going to cover how to generate a topic because, as you know, I do not tell you what to write about. It's going to cover the difference between a primary source and a secondary source, which is very, very simple. I don't want you to overthink that. And stay away from the danger zone, that zone that I tell you all the time. Don't read something and then you identify the topic of it and then you're like, oh, that happened to me too. And then you write a completely a separate essay that has nothing to do with the primary source, but instead is just kind of the same topic as the primary source. So that's what this video is going to cover. I do hope that it it replaces as much as possible that face-to-face instruction that we all miss. But in the event that it does not, and you have questions, don't forget, inbox me. Inbox, not email, inbox. For the sake of time, I'm going to try really hard to keep this brief. I know you all have a lot on your plates. When you have a title to read, that title is considered the primary source, especially if you are given an assignment to write a paper about it. So if you are told to read a particular title, that title can be an essay, it could be nonfiction, or it could be fiction, it could be a poem. Whatever you are assigned to read, if you are then told to go ahead and write an essay about that title, okay, that is your primary source. It's just that simple. Now, secondary sources are once you've read it and you've formulated your own thoughts about it, you want to go out there in the publishing world and see if anyone thinks like you, if you found any other publications that cover the same thing that you're interested in from the primary source. Or just in general, you just kind of want to throw a fishnet out there and just see what other people have thought about this particular work, this primary source. Anything that you find that you then choose to either consult, reference, or borrow from that addresses the same primary source that you have read and that you are thinking about and that you might write about, that is now your secondary source. It's just that simple. Now that you have your title assigned to you, you understand it's the primary source. You don't have any secondary sources yet because you just haven't even read the primary source as of right now. When you read, you want to read it critically. That is a technical term in the land of English. What that means is you're no longer reading for entertainment. This goes back to Module 1, the difference between reading for entertainment and reading for understanding or education, or to highlight or learn something from what you're reading. You want to read the primary source very critically, meaning that you are annotating as you read. You are marking up the text. You're asking yourself questions. You're paying attention to things that the writer is writing. You're wondering why the writer chose that word instead of this word. You have an opinion about a character. You come to an assessment about the character's motivation, about their personality, about their desires, their wants. You can predict what the character might do. You are starting to see literary elements in play, and you can identify them, you see them, and you understand how they're working together to create this experience that you're having as the reader. Those elements can be anything from indirect characterization to foreshadowing to irony, to figurative language, to literal language. These are the things that you are really paying very close attention to while you're reading the work. It may take more than one read. It may take 2 or 3 reads to really get as much from it as you possibly can. Your goal is not to summarize. We're beyond that. Your goal now is to analyze, interpret, and put together a thought that is as original as can possibly be. If the thought in and of itself is not original, your argument for that thought should be. So this is where the work begins. You've been given the primary source to read. You read it critically, which means you're annotating, looking at everything, absorbing everything you possibly can, constantly asking yourself why, what, how. You can put those things on a separate piece of paper, index cards, you can use Microsoft Word, whatever you want to use. But at the end of your read, you have all of these notes that you can now analyze. And now comes your topic. By far, this is the most uncomfortable thing about my course for all students. Many instructors are used to telling you what to write about. They give you a list of topics. Some of them you're like, okay, I can write about that. The other ones you're like, I'm not touching that. Okay. I don't give you a list. I do not tell you what to think. I do not tell you what to write about. I want you to go through the process from beginning to end. I want to see what you think. And I want you to have confidence in what you think. So when you read and you annotate, and you question, and you dig deeper, and you connect with specific literary elements, and you formulate your opinion about the author and about the work and about the significance of the work, or sometimes the lack of significance of the work. Whatever that idea is, becomes your topic. This is something that's very uncomfortable for many of you, and I can completely understand why. The goal is, I want you to think about people who write or people who make movies, or people who write blogs, or people write tweets, people who create Instagram messages or Snapchat messages, or people who generate or create TikTok videos. Nobody tells them what to do. They have an idea, and that idea becomes the final video becomes a manifestation of that idea. In this case, your essay becomes a manifestation of your ideas, your thoughts. The only thing that you get from me is the primary source and the tools you need to build. It's no different than if I gave you all the tools you needed to build a house. And I said, okay, now build your ideal house. You wouldn't ask me, what does it need to look like? You have an idea in your head about what you want your house to look like. That's the same thing about this paper. Once you have completed your critical read, whether that's read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 10 or 15, doesn't matter. You as an individual are going to read it as many times or as in-depthly as you as the individual need to get a real good understanding and to generate a topic that you feel close to, you feel passionate about, and something that you can write about with ease. That's why I don't give you a topic. So what happens? You're assigned your primary source. You perform a critical reading of that primary source. You may perform a couple of critical reads about that primary source. You think about it. You look at your notes. You analyze your notes. You look for any patterns. Does the author use repetition a lot? If they do, why? What does it achieve? Is this protagonist unlike any protagonist you've ever seen? If so, why? What is it in the text that leads you there? That is how you generate a topic. Okay? So if I took, all of us have read Diaz's work, The Legacy of Childhood Trauma. If I took that and I'm going through it and I say to myself, I see a lot of guilt and remorse and pain. That's what I see just throughout the entire essay. That's what I see. Then that becomes the substance of my topic. Diaz, guilt, pain, remorse. Now, how do I take that and transition that into a thesis statement? Okay, well, what does it do? What is it in the essay? What does that guilt, pain, how does it function? Why is it there? My thesis statement from that topic, from these themes, these ideas that I have after connecting with that particular piece of work, my thesis statement may look something like, and if this sounds familiar, it might be familiar because it was kind of given to you as an example for the first essay. If my thesis statement becomes something along the lines of, in Diaz's The Legacy of Childhood Trauma, Diaz uses figurative language and literal language to establish an overall theme of guilt, regret, and remorse. If you notice, that sentence contains the primary source by name, it contains the writer by name, it tells the reader what I think it does, and it tells the reader how it does it. I think it establishes a theme, which is a literary element. I think it establishes a theme of remorse, guilt, and regret. How? Through figurative language. Okay. And that's the essential kind of process to creating your thesis statement. So you go from primary source, critical read, annotate, analyze your annotations, identify what you're connected closely to, ask yourself the whys, create your thesis statement, which will include the source by name, hopefully the writer's name, what the writer achieves with this particular primary source, and how. What the writer achieves is your opinion. How the writer achieves it are the elements or the rhetoric that you identify in the work. And there is your thesis statement. It's not really hard. It's uncomfortable, but it's not hard. I've written about this before. If you meet with me in a synchronous class, then we've talked about the danger zone. The danger zone is when you read an assignment, you read a primary source, you connect with the topic of that primary source, and you decide to write your own essay, or you write an essay for the assignment. And the essay that you write does not address the primary source. Instead, what it addresses is something that happened in your life or somebody else's life that you know of that is about the same thing, the same topic. Okay, that's the danger zone. That's what you don't want to do. So here's how you avoid doing that. Previously, just a minute ago, I showed you or told you exactly how to create your thesis statement, and that thesis statement be an argumentative thesis statement that is based on the primary source. Do the exact same thing with your main ideas. You want to find something from the primary source that led you to create that thesis statement. Okay, either literary elements or rhetoric, a phrase, a paragraph, something in the primary work led you to that thesis statement. Find it, pull it out. Once you have it pulled out, it becomes the foundation of your main idea. Okay? If you use that method, create your main idea from the primary source, and you use that main idea for that particular body of the essay. You repeat that pattern for every body of the essay that you have. So for every body paragraph, you should have a main idea, and that main idea should be based on something you have identified and extracted from the primary source. When you do that, that means that all of your main ideas are going to be connected because they all come from the primary source. It also means that they're all going to support the thesis statement, which is what you want, that unity, the development, the structure of the essay's ideas. Okay? So when you extract what you can from the primary source that led you to the interpretation that you have for the thesis statement, if you do that for every body paragraph, creating your main idea for that body paragraph, then using other things from that same section of the primary source as your borrowed material, you are well on your way to stay out of the danger zone. Now it's time for you to give some thought into what you're about to write. If you sit down and just start typing, you're setting yourself up for a world of hurt. I'm just being honest with you. The work of working, or the work of writing, I should say, happens before you start to type one paragraph. And that's just the truth. When you start to put together your thesis statement and you start to put together your main ideas, and you look at those main ideas and make sure that they support the thesis statement, when you look at them and analyze them and make sure that they are in the right order, you are actually working on your body paragraphs. When you have that thesis statement, when you have those main ideas that are based on the primary source, that are keeping you out of the danger zone, so you don't end up writing a essay that covers the same topic and just you kind of like throw in some examples of what you read in there. You don't want to do that. When you put in the work to create a thesis statement and to create main ideas that are founded and rooted from the primary source, now you look at those ideas and now you look for your secondary sources. What else can you find that supports the idea that Diaz uses figurative language to establish a certain tone? What else is out there? Who else has published something that discusses what regret looks like, what remorse looks like? Can you find something directly that covers Diaz? Or do you just find something in general that talks about what guilt looks like, what remorse looks like? And then you do the work as the writer of your essay to connect the information from that primary source with what you see. The information in the secondary source from what you see in the primary source. That's how you put together a good essay. When you do all of that work on the front end, the writing just flows because everything at that point is already inside you. So once again, your primary source leads you to build your thesis statement. What do I see happening in this primary source? How does it happen? Let me write my thesis. Okay. Main idea. What supports what I just presented in my thesis statement? Let me find it. Let me pull it out. Let me create my main idea that shows this is what I see. When I have all of those main ideas, let me find something outside of this book, outside of this essay, outside of this newspaper that may address this directly, or that may give me some supporting ideas so I can connect what I see in the secondary sources, what I see outside. I can connect this idea to what I see in this primary source. That's how that works. That's how your secondary sources complement your primary source. You've done all the work on the front end. You have been given an assignment. You've been given some literature to read, be it essay, nonfiction, fiction. You've connected to a particular title. You've read it critically. You've annotated. You've analyzed your annotations. You have identified your connection to the writer's work, and you have created a thesis statement based on that primary source. You've gone back to the primary source and you've extracted as much as you can in terms of body paragraphs that will support your own thesis statement. You've taken all of those things that you've extracted and you've created individual main ideas for each of your body paragraphs that will be in your essay. You've analyzed those main ideas. You've made sure that they are well connected. You've made sure that they are going to appear in your essay in a logical and sequential order. Now you've looked at those main ideas and you've decided, what should my secondary sources be? Let me go look for some. That means that you've actually gone on the HCC Library Database website, or you've gone to Google. If you go to Google, you will have to vet your sources very carefully. Remember that if you insert a source that is not credible, then you as the author also lose credibility. Wikipedia is not credible because anybody can change it or do anything they want to do with it. So you found your secondary sources. You found some really good information from your secondary sources, and the information you found directly supports your main ideas. So you place them in the essay where they belong. Constantly analyzing, making sure that each one of them is connected to the main idea, that they are relevant, and that you're still remaining on topic. You've pretty much written the rough draft of the essay. Set it aside. Try not to think about it for a little while. Always write with your heart first, never your head. That means when you go back to revise and edit, you're going to have plenty to correct. So let's talk about that. Now you're down to the wire and it's time to revise and edit your paper. There are a few things you should have been doing the entire time in terms of editing or revising. Some of those things are making sure that your thesis statement is as strong as it can possibly be, that it includes the specific mention of the primary source by title, and the title is formatted correctly according to MLA format. If it's an essay, it goes in quotation marks. If it's a novel, it's in italics. It's never ever both. Okay. That's a little bit of revising and editing. You are also making sure as you edit, you're making sure as you write, you organize, you are ensuring that each of the main ideas they're connected to each other, right? You're ensuring that each of the main ideas you present are also supporting the thesis statement. If they're not supporting the thesis statement, they don't belong there. If they're not connected to each other, they don't belong there. If they're not in a logical order that you're presenting to the reader, then reorganize them, move some things around before you ever write the paragraph. These are things that happen before you start to even type up your paper. Okay? And even with your borrowed material from your secondary sources, at this point, your borrowed material from your secondary sources should be in the same space, in the same area as those main ideas. Right? So you're revising and you're editing them the entire time, making sure that they are grammatically correct, they are as strong as they can possibly be, and that because you are borrowing material, you're writing the three components of borrowed material. You do your lead in, you introduce it, then you borrow the material, either summarize, paraphrase, or direct quote it, and then you do your citation. Those are the three parts of borrowed material. You'll find that in your modules as well. Okay. When you've done all of that, then you sit down and you're actually writing the paper. Once you set it down and give it a little bit of time to breathe, you're going to come back. Now you're looking for your errors in grammar. You're making sure that if you slipped up and put I or you or we or us, that you've taken those out and that the entire essay is third person. You have no contractions in the essay because academic writing does not accept contractions. So anything can't, don't, take those out. Okay. You're making sure that each paragraph is indented for the first sentence. You're making sure that it's MLA formatted. That means it's double spaced. And now our class mascot is coming in. Come on, class mascot. All right. So you're making sure that you're doing all of those things. You're double spacing. Your heading is your name, my name, English, your course number, the date formatted correctly. You have the running head in the left-hand corner. It's okay. Come here. So you're doing all of those things, right? Making sure that your works cited page is correctly formatted. When we say correctly formatted. You can't just copy and paste URLs in your works cited page. Look at your resources. All semester, we've been looking at a sample paper in Purdue OWL, and that sample paper lists the works cited page. Everything from your sources should be included on your works cited entry. The author's name, be nice, come here. The author's name should be there. The title of the work formatted correctly. The publication information. The date of publication. You need help. Okay, come on, help. Let me help you. The date of publication. The date that you access the information. All of those things need to be in the works cited entry. It should also be double spaced. If it has more than one line, all subsequent lines should be indented, while the first line remains flush left. Study your resources. Everything is there for you to understand how to do this. Don't lose points. I'm talking. Don't lose points unnecessarily. And with that, I guess it's time for me to go. If you have any questions, please feel free to inbox me. Please don't email. Inbox your questions. Emails get lost. Sometimes they get put in spam. You don't want that. That never happens if you use the inbox feature on our Canvas course. If you need to take more time to do your paper, that's perfectly fine. At this point, I'm not penalizing. I'm not doing those penalties. We got enough going on, obviously. Just get it done as quickly as you can so you can get feedback. And then you can have time to correct anything. I am allowing people to correct things before the final grades are submitted. So please keep that in mind. Adhere to the due dates as much as you possibly can. And if you need me to do another video, just send me an inbox message and ask me to record something on, whatever you need, and I'll get that done. Good luck to you.